What I'm now trying to do is go for the voters who previously have voted for the Labour Party. I sense there's a lot of dissatisfaction in this part of the world against the Labour Party, a lot of disillusion. And what I'm trying to do is present myself as an alternative and to take those people who, for whatever reason, are so disenchanted they've ceased to vote.
What is it about Ukip that's going to appeal to those Labour voters or ex-Labour voters?
Well, I'm hoping that, there are now enough people who have become extremely disillusioned on account of the fact of our membership of the European Union, and that what we as a party, I'm sure you know, stand for, we're the only party that actually wants to withdraw from the European Union and to reassert our sovereignty as a nation and to make our own decisions. So what we're really effectively trying to do is to get our parliament back, get representative democracy back in the way we used to have it right up until we joined the European Union all those years ago. We don't think it's capable of reform. We strongly suspect that it's so shambolic that it's going to collapse at some time, possibly within the next 5 years anyway. But be that as it may, we want to get out of the European Union, reassert our right to do business with the rest of the world as best we can, on our own terms, and not have those terms dictated to us by people in Brussels.
Let's quash a few popular myths about Ukip. You've been accused of being racist, of being bigoted.
Well, there are people who've kept saying this sort of thing, but I don't think they're saying it quite so frequently now. My colleague, Maxine Spencer, is half Trinidadian, half Welsh. We have quite a number of people in the party from ethnic backgrounds. We actually welcome them in, people from all ethnicities, all different religions. So I don't see how that accusation can now hold up.
If we're looking at it frankly and honestly, what might put them off from voting Ukip, and what would you say to try and deter them from being put off?
What might put them off from Ukip? Well, I think it's probably just a misunderstanding about what we're seeking to do. Really, I think people probably imagine that by voting for one of the major parties, say the Labour or Conservatives, that they're going to be able to deliver on their promises. They probably won't. In fact, they won't be able to, because I say the major decisions that now deal with this country are handled in Brussels and not in Westminster and not in Whitehall. Effectively, we have removed the control of government out of Parliament over to Brussels, and there is no effective control of the European political machine.
You made the papers recently, and I'll read back some of the things that the papers quoted you as saying, and you can perhaps comment on this.
Yeah.
Islam is organised crime under religious camouflage. Islam was created by a man called Muhammad, who was a gang leader of criminals. Stand by those comments.
I absolutely stand by those comments, but what I would like to say that in making those comments, I don't cast aspersions on the entire Muslim population, either of this country or abroad. I started becoming very concerned about Islam several years ago, particularly after the 7/7 bombings. And in order to discover more about this religion, I thought the only way I could really learn to get a grasp of it was to go to the original texts, to go to the Quran, and to go to what they call the Hadith, which is the commentaries, as it were, on the Quran, or at least what they call the narrations of the life of Muhammad. I was really quite appalled. I read a book written by a man called Ibn Ishaq, who was gave us the really first authenticated biography of Muhammad. And really what he was describing was the life of a barbarian like Attila the Hun or Alaric the Goth. So altogether I found him an extremely bloodthirsty character. But interestingly enough, there's a growing number of people who have left the Muslim faith and who are now writing books about the life of Muhammad based on the texts. So I'm finding this very, very interesting. There's a man called Sam Solomon who used to be an imam who's now converted to Christianity, and I'm following a great deal of what he says. And I just have to read these books, and I can't reach any other conclusion other than Muhammad, what he says. But I do want to emphasize that in saying all this, I'm not accusing the whole Muslim population of all these terrible things.
And finally, tell us what ties you to the local area.
I grew up as a child in Golders Green. I left London in my teenage years to go and live in Birmingham, where my father taught at the university, but returned to London in my early 20s, and I've lived in this area all my adult life, so I know it pretty thoroughly. I trained, I went to what has since become London Metropolitan University to study a degree in classical civilization with a view to going into teaching. And then when I actually found out what going into teaching in 1990 and 2000 is all about, I thought I'd be better off using my skills in another field, so I became a tourist guide instead. Although I do some private teaching, I'm a private tutor, so I earn my money, as it were, from either taking tourists around the country or by teaching one-to-one children who are trying to get through their GCSEs. I teach English, and I'm a great specialist in things like punctuation, spelling and grammar and construction. And I also teach a bit of Latin. I've taught Latin from time to time.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay.
Excellent.
Right.